Hey kids, this is Aaron from the podcast that wouldn't die, and Kevin and I use Zencastr. You think you're better than us, that you're using something else? You're wrong. Zencastr's the place to be. Who are you to deny it?
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. If you thought about podcasting before and realized that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code DIEHARD and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time for you to share your story.
Only a fool will give up a chance for a 30% discount.
They are the game changers, leaders, celebrities, advocates, outliers, newsmakers, underdogs, survivors. What do you have in common with all of them? A lot. Find out, only on Repin, where you'll meet notable people, people you think you know. You'll find out who they really are, what they show up for, and what they represent.
You know who to call when you have ghosts. But who do you call when you have monsters?
We're the Monster Squad. What's a squad? It's like Miami Vice, I think.
They're young and inexperienced.
Naughty virgin.
They're a bit disorganized.
Monsters are not real.
We don't know that, sir.
Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast That Wouldn't Die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Yeehaw!
This week, we're discussing the horror, teen, comedy, something.
A romp?
A romp. It's the Monster Squad, starring some people. Good Lord. Each week on the podcast That Wouldn't Die, we discuss guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the horror and sci-fi genres with a comedic twist. Aaron, what's the latest with you?
Oh, Lord, this is how you know you're getting ready to go back to work. My dream last night was me literally running through the procedures with my first period class. Here are the rules, da-da-da-da. This is what I dreamt out, the entire thing.
That's a bad dream. That's a bad dream.
That's a night terror. It's already. That's why I had to take today off. I needed a 3-day weekend before I get back to work. I was like, no. Literally, it was like, okay, we know no phones. Da 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 da. If it's like I'm a robot, da da da. Here are my rules. I don't give a damn if you don't like them. I'm in charge. I don't care if your mom calls during class. You can't answer the phone.
It's like an Oompa Loompa song.
Maybe that'll help it stick. Because by the end of the year, there were still 3 rebels where I'm like, do we got to go over this again? Okay.
Oh, yeah. You're going to be fighting the phone battle for the rest of your life, basically.
The dawn of time, yes.
Till the dawn of time. No question, it's an addiction. It's an addiction.
Dude. Well, as someone who's addicted to TikTok, I can relate.
You understand. What's funny is I was kind of weaning myself off X. I thought X was kind of boring and lousy because I was always on the following. Because I figured those are the people that I follow. And the people I'm like, well, this is kind of boring. Lately, I've been clicking over to For You. And I'm much more interested. And I don't know why. I don't know why.
Because now Mr. Musk has had time to deeply analyze your psyche So slowly you're going to get radicalized. And next thing you know, you will be threatening Taylor Swift. So
That's
it's
correct.
one step at a time.
I've been feeling that way for a little while now about Taylor Swift.
It's soft partnering. And then before you knew it,
that was it.
Boom.
They got
ISIS.
the hooks in you and you're screwed.
First X, then ISIS.
Then ISIS, 100%. I'm gonna go to Iraq to carry on the fight. Is that what it is?
You know what? Somebody else has to radicalize me because that's too fucking hot. I already live in a hot place. I don't want to go a hotter place.
No.
Maybe Iceland can radicalize me, or one of the Swedish countries.
ISIS land.
The Iceland, not Ice-Island.
Aaron, give us your 30-second synopsis on the Monster Squad, for God's sakes.
At first, I thought it was going to be like Mad Monster Party, you know, a Rankin Bass classic. In case you're too old, it's the people who brought us Rudolph. Also did a live action for Halloween with a bunch of old celebrities. You know, Phyllis Diller is the Bride of the Monster. Peter Lorre is in it.
Boris Karloff.
Everybody, all the old stars playing their monster roles. And then I'm like, no. This is kind of like a Goonies ripoff. You know, there's no real, they're going to lose their houses, but it's kind of like a Goonies adventure nonsense. And then it took a turn where we have the Holocaust survivors, and he knows what real monsters are. So this is one of those never forget, where the monsters, with the exception of Frankenstein, are really Nazis, come to terrorize, to the point the Nazi monsters actually firebomb the Holocaust survivors' house.
That's not, so none of that happened.
Terrible on anti-Semitism.
That's not what happened at all.
That is what happened.
No. Okay.
All I can tell you, the ending made no sense because they killed 90% of the monsters. So what was the point of having to open the vortex to take out the trash?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, who
why does the vortex look like one of those laserium things that you would use at one of your little house disco parties with lights flashing everywhere?
Your house disco parties, as one does.
As one does.
Had you ever seen or heard of this movie before?
Dude, I was like in college when this came out. There was no way in hell I was going to see this.
But had you heard of it?
No.
You hadn't even heard of it. I saw this movie in the theater.
Comic?
No. I saw this in the theater, and I was about these kids' age. Like, they were basically, you know, whereas the Goonies, I enjoyed the Goonies as a child. I knew they were all about 5 years older than me, you know, at that time.
Right.
Whereas with the Monster Squad, they were all about my age, with the exception of Rudy, who I guess is supposed to be middle school, and the other guys are supposed to be elementary school. It's hard to judge because he pulls up in his Schwinn. Go ahead.
It is the Goonies. There's a chunk. Instead of John Matuzak, there's Frankenstein's monster.
Yep.
You just needed the old woman and the brothers helping out, and it's the Goonies. It is the Goonies, and they're racist because they don't have like an Asian kid.
They do not, and their version of Chunk was just called Fat Kid for like 90% of the movie. They're like, "Hey, Fat Kid." His friends, his enemies, everyone
like,
calls
we can't top Chunk. We'll just call him Fatso.
Basically, that's what they called him. These are their friends.
It was. He totally had like crazy, like a garlic pizza in his backpack that he lovingly put on the face of Dracula. What the? Well, and not established.
It wasn't like they you know, there's a scene with him sitting at the Shakey's or something, eating a piece of pizza, and then shoves a piece in his back pocket. They're just fighting Dracula, and the dude just unrolls some old food from God knows when, and just rubs it on Dracula's face. So who the hell knows?
Lovingly.
Yeah. Now,
for sure, Dracula was an anti-Semite.
that may be subtext. Yes. Well, what's interesting about this movie is I believe this was a Universal film, which means they had the rights to
the Universal
the
monsters.
Right. So that was kind of, and this was like literally the first thing that the Universal had done with these monsters since the heyday, frankly. So that's something. Why don't we just jump right in to the highlights?
Oh, I thought we had. I mean, I'm digging the clothes. It's pure 80s.
Oh, this guy was wearing 80s. Like a town and country like surf shirt and some kind of crazy Zuba pants, like shorts, and they were ready. Yeah, they were ready. One thing about this movie that I realized looking back, and this is no, offense to any of the actors, what I like it is when you watch a movie with young actors and you're like, oh, hey, there's River Phoenix. There's a young Ethan Hawke in this one. Or there's a young Corey Feldman. This one, none of these guys went on to do anything. This was the...
All right, there was one dude
Lay it on me.
I saw his junk, and it was disturbing. You don't want to see young kids' junk, and I saw more than I needed to see.
What are you talking about?
He went in... Oh, my God. There was a whole close-up on his package at one point, and I saw what was lurking there. And it disturbed me. And it was the dude, what was he from? The Wonder Years or something? The older brother? Was he the older brother in the Wonder Years?
Oh, okay, yes. The bully who's in 2 scenes was Kevin Arnold's older brother in the Wonder Years. And you say you saw his package? What are you talking about?
Dude, the way his pants were, I saw things I didn't want to see. I saw things.
You were
and I can't believe
goddamn mind. Dude, I don't know if I need to contact somebody.
Again. It's right. It's the scene where he has to pick up the stuff off the ground and eat it.
Oh, the Snickers bar, right?
The Snickers bar. Horace, right before he bends down, for some reason, there's a focus on his crotula.
You're out of your goddamn mind,
dude. I tell it like it is.
I'm not going to go back and watch that scene, by the way.
You need to go back and just watch that. Quite frankly, I really didn't like this movie. I thought it was boring. So I just wrote down like random shit and random sayings.
Fair enough.
One kid had a Stephen King Rules shirt.
He did?
Which is correct. He sure did. Then there was a quote, "I smell like the 40s."
That's what. Yes, okay. The scene was they're being chastised by their principal for screwing around in science class. By the way, I didn't even write this down, but there was like in the first 10 minutes of this movie, there are about 15 gay slurs that they call each other. You're a homo. You're a fag. Like just dropping it on each other. Do you see how he touched you? Because he rubbed my shoulders. He's clearly a homo.
Everybody's a homo and a pedo because it was the 80s, and that was a very popular thing. In the midst of the AIDS crisis, it's important in an 80s movie to have about 900 gay slurs.
Oh, I always say, if you go back, and this probably should have told us something, if you went back and watched Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson, he is every other word out of his mouth is some kind of anti-gay slur, vaguely racist slur. I mean, this is the hero of the movie. I mean, was he out?
Now that we know Mel Gibson, this probably is him just riffing. That's his true self coming out. I will say though, Mel Gibson's butt in Lethal Weapon, that's the best part to see.
It's not bad.
Prime.
It's not bad. But the 80s, the 80s were prime for casual racism, casual sexism, casual homophobia. Even from the kids.
And casual nudity. Not
in this movie. I know you've tried to say there was casual nudity. This was a kid's movie.
Not in this movie, but there is like the girl who happens to stand in front of the open window.
Yes.
The closest you got was some back nudity when she was taking her bra off.
Correct. You see her from the back taking off her bra. Now,
she's 5 feet away from a treehouse full of masturbating boys, and she can't hear any of them talking.
That's
and
correct.
Taking pictures. There's a camera trained on her broom. They should all be in jail.
That is true. Interestingly enough, in spite of all the casual homophobia that the kids are saying to each other, they're all supposed to be like 12 or 13 in this movie. They had their own crazy curse language that I was unfamiliar with even at the time. Like, they didn't say nuts. They didn't say, like, kick him in the nuts. They say kick him in the nards, which at the time, or even now, I've never heard that word used in that way. And
East Coast thing, because they use it in The Office. Nard dog.
Well, because his name was Andy Bernard, that's why he was called the Nard Dog.
Trust me.
And you think it was a
That's
direct
not why
connection.
they called them that.
And instead of saying dick, they would say dork. So, like,
maybe they're trying to keep the ratings down.
That's what I wondered. Like, the one kid says shit once and then corrects himself. Sorry, Mom, sorry. And the rest, it's all dork and nards for the rest of the movie. Like, at one point, they're trying to figure out if the older sister's a virgin. And the Rudy, the advanced middle schooler, says, "Have you ever been dorked?" Which I don't think that's a thing.
I would literally look at somebody and go, "What?
Right.
What are you talking about?" Nobody says that.
It seemed like, again, the script was written by Shane Black, or co-written by Shane Black, who did the Lethal Weapon movies, where every other word is the MFs and this and that and the other thing.
It had to be, they wanted kids to go see this.
Right. They were trying to keep a PG rating or something. So they were like coming up with their own crazy swear language. I don't know what it is. It's very strange.
As a mother, I did come up also with my own swear language. Instead of calling people jackasses, I would call them a flapjack. I'd come up with code so I could freely curse, but
jackass is not a curse, by the way.
But I didn't want my kids calling people jackass. This is part of, like, when I'm driving in the car and I have road rage, I'm like, look at that flapjack.
Flapjack. I might steal that. I'm not going to lie. We haven't even talked about what this GD movie's about. Essentially,
Van Helsing.
Right. 100 years ago, Van Helsing and the gang went into Dracula's castle. And there's an amulet that, if you recite some German shit to it, opens up a portal to Limbo, which presumably sucks in all the bad guys, but seemingly it sucks in anybody. Doesn't matter. Whoever's in the room is getting sucked into the thing.
Dude, Limbo is where the unbaptized babies go. So it's a sphere with unbaptized babies who died.
Correct.
And monsters from Universal's Pantheon.
Correct.
Are all hanging out together.
Yes.
That's
how they did Limbo. It. That's how it was written. But they say that even though Van Helsing and the poor virgin girl, because a virgin girl has to be the one to recite the words, evidently, even though they succeed in opening up the portal at the beginning of the movie, the only people who seem to get sucked in are the virgin girl and I guess later Van Helsing. So they failed. It's a question.
Yeah, because he's still fighting with like some kind of poltergeist skeleton coming out of the ground. Shouldn't you have yanked him out and sent him?
It makes no sense. So now modern day, for some reason, that special amulet is now in this small town, which I can't tell where this small town is supposed to be because all the cops wear like cowboy hats, like it's the Dukes of Hazzard. So is this the Deep South? But his dad has an accent like he's from Detroit, so I don't know what the story is or where this story takes place.
Now his dad is famous. His dad has been in 1,000 things back in the day.
He's been in a few things, and interestingly enough, the actor's name is Stephen Macht. His son is like the main actor on that show Suits on the USA Network, Gabriel Macht. That may mean something to you. It may mean they look nothing alike.
That sounds a show your wife watches, correct?
No, like Caleb and the gang all watch Suits for some reason. I can't explain.
All right.
Can't explain it. He's been in a few things, and the wife is always in. Has been in a ton of stuff as well. And you get that kind of Spielbergian part of it where it's like the parents are like on the verge of divorce. Hey, we got a marriage counseling session tonight, so you can't go see Groundhog Day 12. You have to stay home and babysit your sister. And they're just yelling at each other because he's a cop. So this is the other thing, the trope, where it's like, if you're a married police officer, your marriage is
always in trouble because your real love is your job.
Your real love is your job. You get that call.
This town, it's like he's in Detroit, but it's not. It's some little podunk town.
Yes,
that has a world-class museum with actual Egyptian mummies.
Correct. It's got the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian is there. Not to mention, seemingly a swamp takes up half the acreage of the town as well. So that's important.
Do we assume this is a Scientology movie and this is Florida?
Yes, that's what we assume. This is the Sea Org.
The Sea Org.
So they introduce it. They're like yelling at it because it's basically, if you're a cop, no matter what's going down, you may get the call from the office, from the station. Hey, there's been some horrible murders. You need to drop everything and get down here. And you have to just tell your wife, sorry, honey, I know it's our anniversary, but I'm deuces. Because I gotta go.
I know that you're pushing the baby out, and it's only one more push, but I gotta go. So I gotta go. My experience from watching years of Law and Order is he must be a detective.
Yes.
And in my mind, detectives clearly work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Right. That's how it works.
And they're all divorced.
Why I'd never be a detective. I don't want that schedule. That's why we're teachers. I want nights, weekends, and holidays off. There's no emergency education call I'm getting at 2 a.m.
Well, apparently I just had one. I was
no!
I only told you 25 times. I've been there for 4 days. I don't even have to be there this week.
Right. So the amulet somehow made its way from Transylvania to like an old abandoned mansion near the swamp in this small town. So therefore, Dracula is coming there. He's bringing Frankenstein's monster with him. The werewolf, I don't know if the werewolf just happens to be there. Homie's just like, hey, I guess I just pulled into town. Why not? The Gill Man, because they call him the creature or the Gill Man. They don't call him the creature from the Black Lagoon. He swims into town.
It should have been that frickin' sea creature from, what was it? The Shape of Water. I almost said like Water for Chocolate.
Like
The Shape of Water. And
it's
just as attractive as The Shape of Water.
Correct. And like you said,
at the creature going, I want a piece of that.
That is the craziest shit. Where it's literally that.
I hated that.
Guillermo del Toro is just like, hey, I want to do my version of A Creature of the Black Lagoon, but there's got to be some weird bestiality sex in there involved. I got to have 100%. The whole thing.
To me, it's no different whether this was a thing about her dating her German Shepherd. It's super creepy.
It's creepy.
Like something out of Penthouse Forum. Come on.
I mean, it's not like he's a handsome merman or something. He's like scaled. He looks like the Creature of the Black Lagoon. There's no...
he acts like a creature. He's not acting like a human.
No. He's acting like a monster from the depths.
Fuck yeah. So it might as well be her sleeping with a German Shepherd that like pulled her from a burning fire. Now we got to get busy.
Now I love you. Right. 100%.
Now I love you, even though we can't communicate. Oh, we can't. I feel ill. I feel ill thinking about it.
As you should. And as we established, the Smithsonian has the Egyptology exhibit that same weekend as well. So, of course, there's a mummy rolling around. And I have to say, I did not like the portrayal of the mummy in this movie. Because the mummy looked like it weighed about 80 pounds, was about 5'3", like, who's scaring? This isn't scaring anybody. What are we doing here?
This is not scary. This is not, for sure, not Boris Karloff. And the mummy was the easiest thing to dispatch because apparently you need the exoskeleton of the old rotted papyrus bindings. They just unwound him and that was it.
That was the end of
over.
his story. Yeah, just an old skull on the highway. Yeah.
Which makes no sense. Why didn't he wind himself back up? Because later on, the werewolf is blown to bits and is able to suck himself back together.
Well, because they establish you can only kill a werewolf with the silver bullet. If you don't have the silver bullet, then it doesn't matter. They have accents of power
quite frankly, the werewolf is a ripoff because he was like a regular guy. Why didn't they just cure him?
Well, how do you cure him?
In a cage like the cat people, or like that other movie where it's like how they used to put the women when they menstruate into their own separate tent. They could just put the werewolf into a cage during his special time.
Rewind that a little bit. What are you talking about? Menstruating women?
Some societies, it all kind of goes with the cycle of the moon and all that. In some societies, when women menstruate, they have to leave the marital bed. And back in the old days, they'd go to a separate tent or a separate room.
And so what societies? Which societies?
Well,
people are saying
it's happening right now in
Sharia law. Is that what you're saying?
No, but it's more like our very conservative Jewish friends.
Interesting. Okay, I'm not going to touch it.
Anyway, it should not be news to you. This had been going on for 1,000 years.
Fair enough.
You could do the same thing with a werewolf when it's his magical time of the month. You just put him in a cage. Let him bounce off the walls.
He's introduced ranting and raving at the police station.
Right.
Saying, please lock me up. Please lock him up. And it seems like they're trying to, but then he starts fighting them for some reason. The first time you punch a cop, I guarantee you're going in the cell. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Not in this town.
No. So, very upsetting. Like we said, is it Detroit? Is it Mayberry? It's unclear. Unclear. So Dracula's there to get the amulet because on this night, they can cast the spell to open up the hole to limbo. But on this night, it's also vulnerable to be destroyed by Dracula. So that's what it's all about. Now, the protagonists, like you said, are the Goonies. They have the Monster Club, which is like 3 guys who are like 12 or 13. And I don't even remember their names. I just remember one dude was called Fat Kid or Horace half the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's better or worse. Then there is a little kid named Eugene who looks like he's about 5 or something, who also hangs out with them in the Monster Club, but doesn't seem to say anything. He's just kind of hanging out. Why are they hanging out with him? Who the hell knows? And then there's the middle schooler who's 14 or 15. And I said, his introduction is he pulls up on his Schwinn and immediately lights a match off his penny loafers to light a cigarette. So he's the bad boy. It
was Sean Wheeler's younger brother.
Oh, here it comes. The Wheelers catching strays yet again. Interesting. And Rudy, who's the older kid, evidently only joins the Monster Club because their clubhouse on the edge of the swamp, he can look out the window with the binoculars and see one of their sisters basically disrobing in the window daily, on a daily basis. So that's why he wants to join the club.
Maybe that's why they meet at that time.
Maybe. It's not a coincidence. So it's that same thing where it's like the kids are the only ones who can save the day, which seems, as we all know, through an adult lens, seems ridiculous. They would have all been killed. Well, there's the scene where they break into the house. It's Horace and Eugene, the little kid, and his dog Pete, and the main guy whose name I cannot remember. And they're cornered on 3 sides. You have Dracula, you have the werewolf, and you have like the brides of Dracula coming at them. They would have all been dead. That would have been the end of the movie. So, what are you gonna do?
Maybe that would have been better. Maybe that would have been more interesting.
That would have taught him a lesson. No question. At one point, they get away from the werewolf because homie says, kick him in the nards. And he goes up, Horace, fat kid, kicks him in the nards and stops to goes, Wolfman's got nards. So this was in the commercials. It was a thing. Oh, yeah. The word was out.
I would assume they all have testicles of some sort. They're all men, except for the brides.
Unclear.
I was very confused about Dracula getting dynamite and using it. Did he go and get it where? Where was he shopping for the dynamite? And since when do vampires need dynamite?
Right. So, yes, there's that. Well, the Dracula drops down from like some kind of a bomber when they also drop Frankenstein's crate down into the swamp. But when he arrives to the haunted mansion, there's a crazy hearse with like a skull, hood ornament, and like fangs and where the hell did that thing come from? Did you have that like shipped over from Transylvania?
No, but it's a ghost thing because at one point it drives through another car on the road.
Why would it do that? Just because of some vampire shit?
I don't know, because not everything makes sense.
So Dracula's out for his revenge. So he pulls up to the house, gets out a big stick of dynamite, walks around the house to the back to where the clubhouse is, the tree house, throws the dynamite into the tree house, blows up the tree house. For what reason? I mean, was he hoping the kids are in there? I don't know what the purpose is. This is a residential
This is literally
community.
The worst vampire of all time.
Correct. Correct. Well, you see, he turns into a bat a couple times. He does some bat shit. At one point, he picks up a little girl, and what does he call her? He calls her a bitch.
Yes.
I was like, that's horrible. This is a little 5-year-old girl. Even that's low for Dracula. What are we doing here?
I mean, it makes no sense. Draculas are stealth. Vampires are stealth. That's their advantage. These goofy goobers are like walking through the main square banging a gong.
Yes.
A good vampire, you sneak it at night, you just dispatch. Quietly
just handle your biz.
Wait till these little kids go to sleep, and then boom. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, and it's like the mom finds Van Helsing's diary at some kind of garage sale down the road and gives it to
because she knew her kids love German.
That's 100%. So then that's the issue. It's like, it's all in German. What do we do? My slutty older sister's taking German, but she's failing it. So she sucks. But there's the creepy German guy in the neighborhood that we're afraid to go talk to, later revealed to be a Holocaust survivor and not nearly so scary. They're like, scary German guy is cool. He gave us pie and sodas and candy. It says, come back anytime. So.
Honestly, he did look like the scariest person in this whole movie.
He was. So, but luckily he could translate.
I'm glad he was nice.
He was a nice one. He as a child watching Monster Squad, because they reveal he's a Holocaust survivor because he's got the tattoo, the number tattoo.
Oh, did you think it was like our German neighbor, Mr. Harwood?
I didn't know he was
the guy who lived next door to us before Aunt Vicky and Uncle Frank bought the house. It was the German dude.
He was German?
Mr. Harwood was German.
I had no idea. I remember him.
Oh my God.
I remember him.
He was
I don't remember.
big. He was like a pure desert rat. You know, you see him in shorts. He's kind of stooped over, thin as a rail, and just baked by the desert sun.
Okay, fair enough.
I thought for sure that's where you were going. You're like, I thought it was Mr. Harwood.
That wasn't where I was going at all. Good Lord. Oh, God, this movie. Okay, so you got the parents trying to solve, or the dad trying to solve the mystery because he is a police officer. And it's like, well, we shot the guy who said he was a werewolf, but now that body's disappeared. The mummy's been stolen from the museum. or so they think. What the hell? There's a crime wave. What's going on?
Yes.
But really, the cops can't do shit. This is all up to the Goonies to handle this. So
it's freaking ridiculous. There was one good stuff. Frankenstein's good. I liked Frankenstein. They reenacted the little scene with the girl by the lake. But the good thing is, of course, he didn't throw her in the water and she didn't drown.
Right.
They became little buddies. He had been sent to go steal the amulet and kill the children. He was like, no, I'm just hanging. So he became their pet, and they still sent him to hell at the end.
That was a good moment. You're right. Frankenstein is revealed to be friendly and nice, and they show him a Frankenstein's mask, and he's like, "Oh, I'm scary," and it was kind of. He was
crying to the baby. He's like, baby. And then he got sucked away. They were like holding hands. That was sad. They sent him to hell with the unborn babies. Oh.
Right. Well, by the thrilling climax, Dracula's about to kill the little girl. Frankenstein's monster shows up and throws Dracula and impales him on some spikes or whatever. The Gill Man
how did he get off? That's ridiculous.
The Gill Man has been shot to death by one of the kids. Like, the cops don't even try to, the Gill Man's massacring people in the street. No one bothers to
They have killed all the brides of Dracula. Dracula has been skewered 3 times now. He keeps getting up. Quite frankly, they didn't need to open any goddamn thing.
Right.
The kids have killed all the monsters but Frankenstein. So the only reason to open the portal is to F poor Mr. Frankenstein.
It's true. That was a sad moment. Little girls holding on to Frankenstein's fingers. Don't go, Frank. Don't go. Phoebe.
Oh, is that what he was saying? I thought he was saying baby.
Baby.
He
gets right.
Baby.
It should have been a sloth-like situation.
Yes. Now Frankenstein lives with the family, and they take care of him.
Which is, I have to say, that's the funniest shit. If you go back to Goonies, imagine your child comes up and says, "Yes, there is a crazy, deformed mutant. He will be living with us." I would say, no, he's not. I don't give a damn where he goes.
6'5", about 320.
Yeah.
With one eye on his forehead and one eye by his mouth, and he's going to live with us now.
The answer to that is no, he's not, Chunk. And frankly, you can go with him if you prefer. But that would have been a fun little, mid-credit scene where it's revealed that Frankenstein lives in the garage or some shit. Like he didn't get sucked off to limbo for no reason. So
this is a terrible movie. I'm sure
terrible.
I'm sure little kids thought this was all great, but looking at it as an adult, I was like, what? I was just waiting for the commercials so I could go on TikTok.
Because where did you watch it? Tubi or something?
It said it was on Showtime, so I went on to my Paramount Plus, which is also my Showtime, and it didn't come up, so I had to watch it on, Freevee or F off or whatever it is with commercials.
Like I said, I saw this movie in the theaters in 1987, and then I swear to God, I had not seen it for another 25 years. Easy. I think I'd seen it once a couple years ago.
And you thought, this is great. This is great.
I don't think it's great because it is very much. I was talking to Becky's stepdad, Craig, and he talks about how he kind of missed Goonies. Like, Goonies was targeted for a certain age. And if you were just a little bit too old, you're like, I'm not seeing this movie. You know what I mean? It's like The Sandlot for me. When The Sandlot came out in the 90s, I was too old to give a shit about going to go see a bunch of
But now that you're a teacher, you've seen it 45 times.
I've seen it 40 times since becoming a teacher. But so in a way, that's kind of what Monster Squad is. It's meant to be like, you're of a certain age, you're a middle school kid or whatever. Here are our kids about your age doing their thing. You know what I'm saying? And if you're a little bit too old or a little bit too young, you kind of miss it. But people like really love the Monster Squad. People
because
consider
they saw
it
it when they were little.
right.
You know, during the 90s, my kids love Double Double, Boil and Trouble with the Olsen twins. I'm sure if I were to look back now, they also loved all the Vern movies. Hey, Vern.
Right. Ernest Goes to Camp or whatever the hell.
Ernest Goes to Effing Hell. Ernest Goes to Camp. Ernest
Jail.
Whatever. All that stuff. I'm sure they look back at that as they are marvels and masterpieces.
Oh, of course. Of course. Well, another thing that's interesting is Andre Gower, who plays the lead kid in this movie, a few years ago made a documentary about this movie called Wolfman's Got Nards. That's the name of the... Is
this a thing now? That everybody's got to make a movie about the crappy movie they were in?
The one that they were in. Absolutely.
I still haven't seen the Andrew McCarthy Wine Fest. I'm sure I'll need a couple of drinks in to watch it.
It's not great. It's not
I
great.
heard it's... First of all, he was always the worst one. So I'm not surprised his career didn't take off. He was the worst.
Well,
so now he's crying because he was called part of the Brat Pack.
Right.
Who gives a
it's
shit?
funny.
At least they were talking.
They were because you want it to be kind of a retrospective of these movies, and that's not what it is.
No,
it's about
meaning that title destroyed his life.
Well, and Rob Lowe talked to him and basically just said. It's all on how you looked at it, how you chose to look at it. Like Rob Lowe, now he had his ups and downs in his career, but it wasn't in his mind because I was branded by this name and blah, blah, blah. It's like I was a serious actor and now they've made, that's all just ridiculousness.
If your career is crap, it's not because they called you were part of the Brat Pack.
No, sadly, acting careers are generally very short. Yes. So if you look at all of those guys, most of them kind of fizzled by the 90s. And I don't think it had anything to do with the Brat Pack label or whatever. You know?
I mean, honestly, if you think about it, it's modeled off the Rat Pack, which were guys that were drinking and whoring around and hanging out together. I mean, it's not necessarily complimentary. But those were cool dudes. The Brat Pack is a take on, this is the younger generation of a group of people. I mean, at the time, to me, it had no negative connotation as an outside viewer. No. When they said that, you knew it was going to be this guy, this guy, this guy, or this guy.
Well, and I guess they said that Andrew McCarthy and Emilio Estevez felt this way as well, where it was like there was a movie that came up after this whole brouhaha, where it was going to be Emilio and Andrew McCarthy. And Emilio said, I won't work with Andrew McCarthy because he did not want it to be kind of a Brat Pack movie.
How about this? I don't want to work with him because he sucked. Not that Emilio was so great. He often played the same character always.
Yeah. I mean,
he managed
it's all ridiculous.
I mean, he's got pull. His family has pull, and they're managed to finagle it. But if I were him, I wouldn't want to work with Andrew McCarthy. I just never thought he was any good. He always had like a crazy look in his eye, but not in a good Claire Danes way.
Kind of a speech impediment. I mean, there was all sorts of things going on with Andrew McCarthy. It was strange. Yeah.
Anyway. And I know people who thought he was hot potatoes.
Oh, absolutely.
Not I.
Absolutely. He was hot tamale.
Way too sensitive.
You didn't like that?
Clearly way too sensitive.
I always laugh at the fact that in Pretty in Pink, Molly Ringwald was supposed to end up with Ducky. That's how John Hughes had written the script. Now keep in mind, the Ducky character was the John Hughes surrogate. He always saw himself as Anthony Michael Hall. The nerdy character in every movie was John Hughes. Okay. So he wrote Pretty in Pink that she ends up with him, essentially.
And so why did that not happen? Because she said, hell no.
Audiences hated it. They're like, we don't want you to end up with the squirrely little nerdy guy. We want you to end up with the handsome Andrew McCarthy. So they had to go back and reshoot. They had to reshoot it.
We don't want you with the guy who understands you, who's always supported you.
No. The ladies who go see this movie, teen girls, were like, no, do not end up with John Cryer, end up with Andrew McCarthy. So what's interesting about that is that I think a year or two later, John Hughes wrote a different movie.
It was not Andrew McCarthy, was it?
Pretty in Pink?
I thought it was another dude.
No.
Hang on.
Oh, you don't believe me? Okay. Prepare to kiss my butt. Are you seriously disputing that? James Spader? Is that who you think she ends up?
Am I thinking of somebody else? Then I must be thinking of another movie. Who's
Pretty in Pink? She's
Dude,
a poor girl from the wrong side of the tracks.
Zapp was in it, and Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah, like briefly, Andrew Dice Clay is in like one scene or something.
Harry Dean Stanton.
Yeah, it's her drunken father. James Spader was
love him.
Andrew McCarthy's rich asshole buddy. Because again, John Hughes movies, we're talking about this for 20 minutes. John Hughes movies were strongly about class. You know what I mean? It's like you have kids from the wrong side of the tracks, and then you have the rich kids. This is not something I ever dealt with growing up, where it's just like, oh, the rich kids and the poor kids can't hang out. Evidently, that's an issue somewhere at other places. But but the end of the movie, they said, no, you can't end up with John Cryer, Little Crazy Ducky. You got to end up with Blaine, the Andrew McCarthy character. So they had to do reshoots.
I mean, what a pussy name is that?
But interesting postscript. A couple years later, John Hughes wrote a new movie called Some Kind of Wonderful, where he basically took Pretty in Pink and gender swapped all the roles. So now the artistic kid from the wrong side of the tracks is Eric Stoltz, who's got a squirrely little friend played by Mary Stuart Masterson playing the Ducky part. And then there's Leah Thompson, who he's in love with. But by the end of the movie, he realizes that he doesn't want to be with Leah Thompson. He wants to be with the squirrely little friend, Mary Stuart Masterson. And people didn't complain because it's okay for the squirrely girl to end up with the main guy, then the little squirrely guy end up with the...
Or maybe it was just John Cryer.
Poor John Cryer.
Maybe he was just a little bit more attractive.
John Cryer is still doing it, though. 2.5 Men for 15 seasons.
The worst fucking show. I don't even know.
Whatever.
Are you saying you watch that show?
No, I don't watch network sitcoms for some reason. I haven't in 100 years since like Friends.
I had friends who told me, and I questioned their intelligence,
their sanity.
At least in my mind, I'm like, you must be so stupid.
I didn't watch 2.5 Men. I didn't watch Big Bang Theory. I didn't watch.
I did watch Big Bang.
I just don't
watch
Met
Your Mother.
I don't watch network sitcoms. Everything I watch is like Netflix or Hulu or those kind of things. So.
Big Bang was the jam for a long time. That was like
very popular.
But then I am absolutely sick of it. But then they came out with Young Sheldon, which was better than Big Bang.
That's what they say.
And now that's
a good
over.
Show too. But I don't watch any of those shows. Such is life. Any last thoughts on the Monster Squad, by the way?
Oh, jeez Louise. I'm trying to go through my notes. Groundhog Day 12, I literally thought they referred to the Bill Murray movie.
Right. Because that was their joking.
It just repeats through 12 episodes. But then it was clearly a slasher film. Do you like the power went out? So next to the 5-year-old, I put a giant burning candle 1 inch from her head. And
that's
now
important.
I'm gonna go out.
A kerosene lamp, yes.
The effing house. And that's it.
I like one scene that kind of made me laugh. Like the child in me laughed. Is there a scene where little Eugene writes in crayon a letter to the army? Dear army guys, come quick, there are monsters. And at the very end, after they've dispatched all the monsters, the army rolls in and says, where's Eugene? I thought that was kind of cute. But anyway, That's neither here nor there. Should we go behind the scenes?
Go.
According to director Fred Decker, Shane Black's first draft of the screenplay was so huge that the opening of the film featured Van Helsing accompanied by Zeppelins and hundreds of men on horseback storming Dracula's castle. Decker stated that this sequence would have cost more than the final budget of the film. So they said, no.
Okay. I think we could have done without any of the Van Helsing and just have creatures show up in a town. How about that?
Sounds good. Why not? The scene where Dracula lifts Phoebe up and she screams was done in one take. Duncan Rieger, who played Dracula, wouldn't wear his red contacts or fangs around the 5-year-old Ashley Bank because it scared her too much. For the scene, director Fred Decker just told Ashley to scream once the platform raised her. So there you go. That's nice. So he doesn't yell, "You bitch," right to a little girl's face. So that's something.
He says, "You little whore."
you dirty whore. Liam Neeson was paid for a bit part that was never shot. Poor Liam Neeson. Let's see. There are 2 versions of Michael Sembello's end credit song. In some versions, dating back to VHS release days, there is a lyric referring to the gill man swimming in the pool. As of 2007, this has simply been replaced with the creature from the Black Lagoon because there's no scene where the gill man is swimming in a pool. So
that's what they
important.
focused on. Yeah, that's great.
That's very important. Has the same line, "Dead guys do not get up and walk away by themselves" line, followed by a shot of a dead guy walking down the street, as Night of the Creeps, which was also written and directed by Fred Decker. So he did Night of the Creeps and then did The Monster Squad.
I will say Night of the Creeps is better.
I don't disagree with you. There you go. Dustin Diamond, otherwise known as Screech from...
Yes.
He had a small role as a kid who tries to trade baseball cards with the boys, but this was later cut. Very sad.
So anyone we know anything about is eventually just cut out.
It's eventually cut out.
The finesse.
That's correct. Mary Ellen Trainor, who plays the mother of the lead siblings, also plays a mother of lead sibling children in The Goonies. So she's the mother in both those movies.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie came out 6 months after another movie written by Shane Black, Lethal Weapon. Boom.
I would say a more successful film.
So, some would argue. Let's see. Anything else? I don't think there's anything else here. Sean wears a shirt in the beginning of the film that says Stephen King's Rules. Stephen mocked Sean's father in this film, stars 3 years later in The Graveyard Shift, written by Stephen King. So there you go. The police officer father in this movie is the evil shop foreman in Graveyard Shift. Remember we did that about the giant rats?
Oh, God, that was so terrible.
There you go. He had a horrible Maine accent in that one, if I'm remembering correctly. Let's talk about the cast and crew, shall we?
We shall.
Fred Decker was the director and one of the writers. You know him from The Monster Squad, Night of the Creeps, RoboCop 3 in 1993, and The Predator in 2018. He wrote a lot of stuff, directed a few things. We talked about Shane Black was one of the writers as well. They were buddies who've worked on a million different things together. You know him. He actually was an actor in the movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He wrote and directed The Nice Guys, wrote and directed Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, wrote and directed Iron Man 3, all the Lethal Weapon movies. The list goes on and on. Let's see. Andre Gower played Sean, the main Monster Squad person. You know him from The Monster Squad. He was the writer and director of Wolfman's Got Nards in 2018.
I am not watching that. I tried to watch the documentary about, what was it? the Trolls or whatever.
Oh, right. Troll 2.
And I lost all interest. So
the one you gotta watch, I think it's called like The Island of Lost Souls, about the documentary about the island of Dr. Moreau. That is amazing.
Maybe we should put that on our list.
Add it to the list. Let's see. He was in 4 episodes of the show Fathers and Sons in 1986. I'm sure you know it. He was in 24 episodes of Mr. President from 87 to 88. You remember that one, don't you?
I don't even know any of this shit. My college town, we didn't have TV, and the only theaters were art house theaters, so we never got any current movies. It was mostly foreign films, which is how I was able to see The Cook, The Thief, his wife
and her lover. Which is a kind of upsetting movie, by the way.
Where they
Robbie
have to cook penis.
Right, 100%. Robbie Kiger played Patrick. He's the buddy. You know him from the Monster Squad. He was Job in Children of the Corn in 1984. He was in 35 episodes of Crazy Like a Fox from 84 to 86. And he was in Table for Five in 1983. You familiar with these shows?
No.
Steve.
Wait, Table for Five, was that like a CW nonsense or something?
No, CW didn't even exist at the time.
Oh, okay.
Stephen Mocht played Del, Sean's dad. You know him for The Monster Squad in 1987. Graveyard Shift in 1990. Raid on Entebbe in 1976. And Amityville 1992. It's About Time in 1992.
It's about time. It's about time. It's about space.
Let's see. Tom Noonan played Frankenstein's monster. He's actually been in a ton of stuff. He was in Synecdoche, New York in 2008. He was in RoboCop 2 in 1990. The House of the Devil in 2009. Manhunter in 1986.
Oh, I think I saw Manhunter.
That was the first movie about Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
Let's see. John, I always mess up his name. John Grise played Desperate Man, or the Wolf Man, as he is in the movie.
Desperate. He looked really familiar.
He's been in a ton of stuff. He was Uncle Rico in Napoleon Dynamite in 2004.
Oh, yes. I have a perfect vision of him. I have a perfect vision.
A million things. He was the van driver in Men in Black in 1997. He was in Get Shorty in 1995, and he was in Real Genius, playing Laszlo Holyfield in 1985 with Val Kilmer. I mean, he's a working actor. He's arguably the most successful actor in this movie.
Yeah. He is quite
Anybody
the
else you want
actor. No.
Anybody else you want to know
about? Phoebe? Phoebe went on to get married and have a regular
Ashley
life.
Bank played Phoebe. You know her from such things as The Monster Squad in 1987. She was in one episode of Frasier in 1994. She was in a movie called The Haunted in 1991. And she produced a short called The Reunion in 2004. There you go.
All right, man. She took 20 years off. All right.
This is not everything they ever did. Anybody else you want to know about?
No, not a goddamn one.
Not a goddamn one. Let's go to the ratings, shall we? Monster Squad. Currently 56% rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. You know what the audience gave it?
48?
78. Told you it's
was
like
the audience a bunch of 7-year-olds?
Yes, as a matter of fact. Let's look at the top critics, shall we? Vincent Canby of the New York Times says, a silly attempt to crossbreed an Our Gang comedy with a classic horror film, which usually means that both genres have reached the end of the line. Oh.
There's no way that this is anything close to Our Gang.
It's just like Our Gang. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Buckwheat and Spanky and Alfalfa.
Stymie.
No. Stymie. No.
Froggy. Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times says, the Monster Squad is such fun. It makes you wish you were a kid again.
Then you'd appreciate it.
Hard disagree. So, Aaron, what is your rating for the Monster Squad?
I say if you're like 6 or 7 years old, then this is knocking it out of the park. Otherwise, as an adult, I refuse to rate it because it's not even on my radar. It's not even.
You refuse? You abstain?
I abstain. Because it's not worth my time.
Look, it's definitely a movie where it's like, if you're at that certain age when you see it maybe it makes an indelible impression in your heart, and you're like, well, now this is the finest film ever seen.
It's a nostalgia piece. It's either a nostalgia peak for the last half of Gen X, or it's something you could bust out with your crazy kids if they're little. But who knows? Because I've had kindergartners tell me about Saw, so I don't know what parents are doing these days.
No, it's definitely like if you were about 10 in 1987 and you saw this movie, it has a little special part in your heart, right? Any other time, you're kind of like, eh. But in all honesty, again, I was probably 12 or 13 when I saw this. And I don't remember being like, oh shit, Monster Squad. That's the one. That's the one I got to tell my friends about. You know what I mean? I remember it being...
You might have been too old.
I might have been too old.
It wasn't scary, right?
Not
Were
scary.
You scared?
It's kind of a family film.
Yeah.
Almost. You know what I mean?
Maybe you need to dig into this. Maybe the LDS put some money in. We need more family friendly.
It's either the Scientologists or LDS coming to get you, according to Aaron. It's fine. It's fine. It's not offensive. It's clearly meant for kind of younger people. So it's hard
only
to get
offensive if you like horror movies.
Right. If you're expecting horror, then you will be offended.
If you enjoy the Universal monsters, this will be offensive. So,
this will be offensive.
Warning, trigger warning.
Trigger warning, absolutely. No, I would say it's about a 2.75 on my list.
Seems high.
It's not bad. I know you're saying it's a piece of shit. It is not a piece of shit. It's just clearly meant for younger
adults.
It's not for adults.
People who saw it as a child and they have fond memories of it. I say
Correct.
Snap out of it. It's for something if you want to put a creepy pee-pee on Halloween after your kids are back from trick-or-treating. If they're very young, then throw this on.
Brain damaged, right. No, the issue is, this is not the Goonies. This is not
as good as the Goonies.
No, they're these movies that were kind of iconic depending on the age you were. I think Monster Squad is aspiring to be that, but I don't think they quite get there. So.
It seems like a direct-to-video kid movie from back in the day.
But it was not. It had feature.
That's the most shocking part of the movie.
Correct. Exactly. So, any last thoughts?
No, I'm going to try to forget this whole movie by the afternoon.
By the afternoon. So, thank you very much. Go to all of our pages across social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, we're on X, Blue Sky, Threads. You can also watch us on YouTube. Don't forget to email us, the podcast that wouldn't die at Gmail.
I was sending you a text, so I missed my cue.
Oh, good work there. I'll be sure to read it out right now.
No, you need to read it right now. It's our review. I forgot to send it to you.
Oh, okay. I've totally lost my train of thought. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere the finer podcasts are available. So don't forget to like, share, rate, and review. Won't you?
Won't you please? And tell a friend.
Aaron, what is your social media situation?
I am on the gram I guess I'm on X and Threads, but mostly I'm on the gram. I am the Cult of Aaron. Join the cult. I am on Artsy and First Dibs, Aaron Doherty. Buy some Polaroid art. Buy some pictures of Kevin and hang them over your dining room.
Please do. Aaron, I did not receive a text from you, so I don't know who you text messaged.
Oh, I texted it to my son.
So that's helpful.
Sure.
As you know.
I'm sure I'll be getting a question mark about that. Now look.
As you know, we like to share comments, questions from our friends across the interwebs. Let's take a look, shall we?
Shall we?
Talking about Maximum Overdrive, our review. Our friend over at the Talk Nerdy to Me show says, brilliant. Boom. Disagree. But thank you for chiming
strongly,
in, nonetheless.
With extreme prejudice. But thanks for your opinion.
Extreme prejudice, no question. Next week, we're discussing the Stephen King horror classic, the original Children of the Corn, starring Peter Horton and Linda Hamilton before we knew who they were.
That's right. And way too many weirdo parents started naming their kids Malachi. I've had so many Malachis and Damians in my years of teaching. And don't tell me they're like biblical, because that ain't why they're naming them that.
Yeah, I'm sure they were going for the Children of the Corn motif is what they were going for.
Dude, if you meet the parents, count their tattoos. It wasn't because they're Amish.
That is true. How can you watch Children of the Corn, you ask?
Yes,
it is on Prime Video, free with subscription, AMC Plus, Roku with ads, Hoopla is free, Tubi is free with ads, Shudder, Arrow Video, Plex. Yeah,
Arrow Video. How many of these free subscription things should I have at this point?
I'm not sure how free some of them are, but yes, they exist. So watch Children of the Corn based upon the 5-page short story by Stephen King.
I love that short story. I don't know why he didn't go back and flesh that out, because that was
like more Children of the Corn. Another Children of the Corn. I'm saying those are names of potential sequels. No, but just take
the short story and then kind of, bump it up. Because that
what's the next step? Are they still doing the corn shit?
Do you think I even remember? I read that book when I was in high school or something.
Fair enough. Send in your favorite scenes, favorite quotes, comments, and questions, and we may talk about it on the show. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. And be well.
Be well.